Alright, so I'm gonna get straight to it. So pretty much I'm giving out free lessons on CQB right now, and this is gonna be the first episode because you gotta make a lot of episodes when it comes to CQB if you want to know everything or at least a lot of shit. And this is just gonna be the basics and not really gonna be talking about anything advanced in this first episode. But this is pretty much giving you a look into CQB and what you're watching. And I already selected a couple videos that I'm gonna break down for you so you have an understanding on CQB and the training being conducted in these videos. Because from a civilian standpoint, you might not understand what you're looking at, and it's good knowledge to have. And since this is the intro to my channel, I'm also going to be talking about stuff besides CQB like recon reconnaissance, basic 0311 shit. I'm gonna be also talking about Marine Raiders, just all different types of trainings and what you're looking at and how it's being conducted, and pretty much giving you all useful information and teaching you shit so you could execute it. And if shit ends up happening and you gotta go guns up, you know what you're doing pretty much. And on top of all that, I want to say that regardless of how much videos you watch and regardless of what I tell you and what I'm teaching you, you gotta perform it yourself, and you gotta see how you gotta learn how to execute it yourself. Because when it comes game day, the more reps you have at something and the more you practice at something, the more efficient you're gonna be, and the more like everything is just gonna click in your head, and you're not gonna have to think about what you're doing. You're gonna be able to react to shit. That's especially with CQB. So you're gonna flow with everything that's going on. You're not gonna think about it. But I'm not gonna talk too much. I'm gonna get straight into it, and I'm gonna explain all these videos and break them down the best I can for this first episode. So first thing you're gonna see is MARSOC Marines conduct CQB training in Camp Pendleton. So all right, let's get straight into it. Alright, so the first two things I'm gonna say that you've seen, pretty obvious, is the weapon systems that they're carrying is the M4. So a lot of people say that the M4 is the most like agile and quick when it comes to room clearing because it's the smallest assault rifle when it comes to like the M4, the M27, the M16. Like when it comes to all those weapon systems, the M4 is like the smallest and most agile and lightest, and even when you put attachments on it. And on top of that, I want to say that you always want to make sure you know your weapon system. So like the M4 point target is 500 meters, the area target is 600 meters, and the max range is 3600 meters. Knew that already like a while ago, but that's besides the point. You just want to know your weapon systems and know what you're doing. And usually if you're if you're an 0311 combat engineers, when it comes to small unit room clearing, because you never really want to do like just one man room clearing, and that's usually never going to happen, at least if you're doing it in the Marine Corps. But when it comes to small unit room clearing, you're usually going to have the combat engineers that are going to be breaching for you. But I mean, it's good for everybody to know. And pretty much he's using, I think it's an MEW, but it's pretty much a shotgun. It's a shotty, and literally you just fucking shoot that shit on the door and you just knock it down. And as you can see him doing it right here. Alright, and then you see him, obviously, you see him throwing a flashbang, and what that does is obviously disorients the enemy combatants on the other side of the door that you can't see. Whether it's a corner fed room or a center fed room, regardless of what it is, you're still not always going to have, I feel like, 100% line of sight of what you're getting into. So it's just safety, at the end of the day, because you don't need to send one of your men, or you don't need to send the pointman in first without actually, and like, you don't need to enter the room. You could flash the room when it comes to having to clear rooms fast too and efficiently. And that's also like other shit that we do besides sending drones out in the air or to just analyze the buildings. And also on top of that, you, besides drones, you have also like robotics that just could fucking go into doors and with a camera on it, and you could see everything that you're entering before even entering into the room. So it's pretty much just for gathering info. And I mean, you attach two fucking machine guns on that shit, and is what it is. So let's keep getting into the video. So right there, what you're looking at is just pretty much they're practicing basic weapons proficiency within a pistol or a rifle. Also on top of that, shooting and moving, mounting, and all that stuff is what you're gonna want to make sure you could execute CQB properly. If you're really efficient with shooting and moving, you conduct a lot of live fire exercises, live fire drills, which is obviously conducting training with live ammunition, and then you'll be able to be more efficient when it comes to doing CQB. So that's very important. And on top of that, like there's a lot of drills out there, like hammer drills, box drills, all different things that you can do when it comes to like two to the chest, one to the head, shit like that. And that's just what's gonna make it where you have expert marksmanship. So when it comes to CQB, when you conduct live fire CQB too, you'll be doing that. So let's just continue the video. Alright, so that's really it for this video. Let's go straight to the next one. X this shit out. This is Marine Raiders collaborate with Marines from 1-8 on CQB tactics and SSE. So Marine Raiders are also MARSOC. If you don't know or you get confused, Recon Marines are actually like technically not a part of MARSOC. So yeah. Let's get straight into it though. Alright, so just off the bat, we see a lot of stuff. The point man always goes first and makes the calls. You always got to make sure you trust your point man. The point man is the first person that's entering the room. And on top of all of that, you got to look at their footwork and pay attention to their footwork. They're never crossing their steps. You don't want to cross your steps when it comes to CQB. And you got to understand your environment, understand the doorways, whether you need to take long steps that you could snap your gun out. Now, when you're snapping your rifle out, make sure you know this. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but they're snapping it to the back of their shoulder before they come around the corner, and they're snapping it out. That's the best way that you want to do shit when you operate your rifle for a really efficient, like, reaction time when it comes to, you don't want to lower your rifle in the low ready. You don't want to do any of that. You want to make sure you have your fucking rifle behind your shoulder, the stock of the weapon, and then you snap it out. And that's just the key, and you're gonna see this in a lot of videos now. Right here, he actually had it in the low ready, and different units that you go to will operate shit differently. There's a lot of different ways that people do CQB, and there's a lot of ways that they prefer to do it. So not every unit that you come across that's conducting CQB, room clearing, all that shit, they're going to do it the same way as other groups. So keep that in mind also.
Is to confirm the tactics and techniques and procedures that we've done with an outside entity and a professional force like the MARSOC Marines, to see where we're at and refine our TTPs before we go forward on this deployment here in a couple of weeks.
We're applying our tactics to their individual actions within the house in order to have that integration and interoperability when the time does come for a conventional force to work with a soft unit.
Okay, and so I'm gonna say two things right here. One is that you always want to be the good thing about being in a small unit is that you're always gonna have 360 security, always somebody watching your rear, always somebody being able to watch everything, because an important thing is CQB is being able to focus on what you're supposed to focus on. If you're in the front, if you're the point man, you're focusing on what's in front of you. You do not want to have to worry about focusing on what's behind you to your rear or any of that, what's on your left, what's on your right. That's why small units, when it comes to CQB, that's just one of the most important here. Here they're clearing going up the steps right now, and that's how you properly do that. And also another thing that you want to see is when you saw that their non-firing hand was on the shoulder of the person, Marine in this case, in front of them. Now the reason for that is for communication. Sometimes, especially doing nice CQB, you don't speak. You use hand and arm signals to communicate, and I'm gonna make a video on every hand and arm signal in the future. But that's just something that you do, and when you see that, it's also to notify and to know that the person is behind you. So that's all important shit. So yep, let's keep going into this. Also, oh yeah, one more thing is also I would say is threat detection. When they're clearing these rooms, they gotta know when to shoot and not shoot, and that just comes with repetition. So right there, he's watching the rear. Pretty much moving in two pairs right now. They're pretty much moving in pairs when they have to clear. All right, so pretty much they're moving in pairs right now, like a point man and the second man, because they're have multiple rooms to clear at the same time. So you pretty much could break off in that. And also another thing is, depending on how much men you have with you, you want to try to clear about 80% of the room before entering. And I mean, situation dictates, like I said, especially in the Marine Corps, they do shit differently. So it is what it is. So let's just see. So right now their in pairs appointment is obviously going first.
My biggest takeaway of working with the Raiders.
And also, by the way, they are still with their unit. Remember that. They're just watching the rear, and pretty much like I compare this to area reconnaissance, let's just say, or an area, no, not area reconnaissance, area ambush. So when it comes to an area ambush, you're pretty much taking down multiple kill zones. So there's pretty much multiple different rooms and kill zones where the enemy combatants could be. So when it comes to everybody together, you do not want you all bunched up. Obviously, you're gonna want to separate but be together at the same time. So you're just clearing rooms fluently. You have a flow to it. You're making sure you're checking the dead space. And by the way, if you don't know what dead space is pretty much the part of the room that you can't see. So like you would technically, when now I'm gonna go into movements, you would technically like you have a corner fed room, let's necessarily say, and you are the point man. The person, let's just say you're in a two-man CQB, or you're two-man. The person on, you're the point man. You clear your sector of fire, which you could see without entering the room. Same with the your second man. So now you're going to button hook, which a button hook is pretty much the dead space, the space that you cannot completely see. You're going to pretty much button hook and make like a right turn into it, and that's just like a type of movement, a fluent movement. That's why you got to keep your gun above your shoulder and snap out when you're button hooking to the right. Let's just say in the left side of the room is the corner, which you already could see completely in a corner fed room. And on top of that, a little trick that I learned when you're doing CQB is if there is a door there, and whether, let's just say you don't end up breaching it, you opening it and you're closing it, or it's already open prior, you want to actually not clear the door first. The goal is to edge that door, and whoever is since that door is like to the lock, to pretty much stuck to like the tight of the door of the wall. If somebody is behind that, he wouldn't really necessarily be able to hit out or push out. But that's when throwing a flash is actually necessary, because like I said, there's just different ways. I don't want to confuse you. There's just different ways you can conduct room clearing. So because some people think that clearing the door is the first thing you do, but that's actually not the case. And on top of that, I want to say that what was I going to say? There's something that I was going to say, but I'm not really sure. Oh yeah, the goal is to get like your CQB footwork, your footwork where you don't even need to think about it. If you don't need to think about it, you're gonna get way better at it, and that's how you know you're getting better at it. So you just are making the proper movements, never cross your feet, shit like that.
Is that there's always a different way to do something, and being able to get my Marines in a place where they can practice their fundamentals that they've been working on this whole workup.
Every experience I've had with MARSOC has always been good. They've always been very professional. It's always benefited me and the Marines under me also.
Alright, so that's useful information. And just to like continue with that is oh, that's actually something I actually want to say. So when it comes to the door, remember that a door isn't cover. Cover is your cover from enemy direct and indirect fire, so they can't shoot you through it because you're hiding behind that, and it's strong enough that the rounds will not penetrate through that or whatever type of weapon system they're shooting at you. But concealment is just you're hidden. You could still get shot by enemy fire, indirect fire. So don't get confused. A door is not cover. A door is just concealment. So they could still shoot you directly or indirectly through it, but it's just used as not being detected, essentially. So let's get straight into the next video, which is Recon Marines Close Quarter Tactical Drills Room Clearing. And right here, since it's not night CQB, and I guess they're not like, there's just different ways and styles of conducting CQB. Like I said, like there's like, I think there's like two type of room styles. The lead man can go to the corner he sees calling, going to the known, or he can go to the corner he cannot see, going to the unknown. Like there's just a lot of unknown is obviously what you could see, and unknown is what you can't see, which would be considered dead space. So there's just different. You can move like 45-degree angles from the door. So there's just a lot of shit that you could do, and you gotta keep it. Just understand that there's just different ways of conducting stuff. There isn't just one way when it comes to CQB. So that's just important. And yeah, let's keep getting into it. As long as you have sectors of fire cover, you know who's covering the proper sector of fire. That's just important because you don't want two people looking at the same thing as CQB, and always trusting your Marine or the person you're with. Always trusting them to be your ally, to be able to execute the right thing, especially if you're the second man. You got to trust your point man got to trust the second man. And now getting into like advanced movements and advanced CQB, like there's ways to, like, even if you're in a two-man CQB where like you could just focus on the front, and if there's dead space on your left or dead space on your right and walls where the person on the right could move his shoulder above yours, and the second man could move his shoulder above yours, like his right shoulder when he's clearing a left wall, and be able to, if he gets enemy contact and enemy fire, when he pushes back, he pushes the point man back, which he's still focusing on the front of him. So there's a lot of advanced movements that I'll get into in the future. That was just explaining one thing. I don't want to get too in depth with that. I want you to understand the basics of CQB still. And right there, when you see those black shirts, those are pretty much just instructors. Right there, they're obviously breaching. Right here, you could obviously see that the point man is making the calls right here, and he is looking at the right side of this hallway, and the second man is looking at the left, and they're pretty much making sure they have all sectors of fire, best of their ability, being watched at the time. They're definitely moving really methodical right here, as you can see, and they're all near each other, but they're not to the point where they could actually shoot each other, literally. So you got to keep that in mind, that they're all watching a certain sector of fire, like I said. So them doing that is what's going to make them be able to clear the room the most efficiently. They're wide peeking and panning the doorway before, like, they're clearing as much as the room as they possibly can before actually entering the threshold. And the threshold is pretty much where the line meets where you're actually in the room. So you don't cross the threshold until you pretty much enter that room. And another thing is, when it comes to panning and clearing rooms, is you don't want to, at least I could say, this is just small unit room clearing, but when it comes to like just you clearing a room by yourself, or let's just say it's two people, you definitely don't want to lean to the left and reveal your body. You want to make sure, no, you want to actually lean to the left and reveal your body. You don't want to put your foot out first, especially like close to the door. That's why you want to wide peek it from the back, because when you're that close to the door, and if you're just solo room clearing, you're literally going to get shot in the foot if the enemy is in that room seeing you. All right, so that's just something simple. Everything is pretty much explained. And this is the last video we're gonna look at. So pretty much on top of all that, remember like the hallway movement, them going up the stairs, all that shit matters, and all that shit is very precise, and it's always conducted in a way that everyone is watching something useful. Whether it's the rear, whether you have the guy when you were watching him go up the stairs, he was looking in front of him going up the stairs while somebody was also standing there watching over like the second level of the stairs, and that's just the way you need to do CQB. Just from like the moment I joined the Marine Corps, I was always like pretty much exposed to like room clearing, and also I did a hostage rescue situation prior, so that's all important shit. And remember, you gotta also understand like certain buildings have more complex floor plans. Just there's certain ways like setting isolation, scenario based like things. There's a lot of different also training you could do, like scenario based training that will definitely enhance your ability in CQB. And right though, those are PVS 31s, which is night vision devices. And yeah, they're used obviously, especially when you're doing CQB at night, just night raids. You would be using PVS 31s or binos, which is 4, and then the single nods are just called PVS 13. And you see how he just snapped his rifle right there? Exactly what I'm talking about. Gotta rewind it for you. Snapped it out. Exactly what you gotta do.
Right, if you start putting targets in here, if you don't.
If you get hung up, guys are gonna push. Right? If he's dead, like you.
Yeah, no, we're good. Okay, fuck, I like being here. Now we'll try to get a scan.
The greatest unknown. I've got 3 other dudes who have already cleared this. Like I'm taking. Bang, bang, bang.
Right there, when they're conducting that 4-man CQB, they all know exactly where they're going prior to even doing everything, and that just comes from repetition and experience. So that's why when you expose yourself to this, you'll just get more used to it, and you notice how when all 4 of them are flowing to that room, it's so smooth because everyone knows what sector fire they're about to look at and just engage. So.
Press. Moving. Press.
Throw 2 flashbangs as kind of your, the jitters out, throw 2.
Right here, obviously, you could see that he is just maintaining clear vision of the front of him, while his second man is maintaining clear vision of his rear. So they have everything on lock. That's why it's very important to understand how CQB works and pretty much what you're supposed to be doing, because if he didn't understand and didn't pay attention, they're both looking at the front of them and they have no one covering their rear, they could easily get flanked, ambushed. You don't know what could happen. 360 security is very important.
Throw 2 flashbangs as kind of your, the jitters out, throw 2 flashbangs. First flashbang, Rick's going to walk up to the door.
Obviously, they're throwing flashbangs right here to
Wherever you keep it when we're actually on the door.
clear rooms without having to put a man in there.
Alright, you see something, okay, hey, I want to bang. Now you know what I mean? But like, right now it's just.
Yeah, so you don't want to lose a fucking
Speakers off.
What?
Oh, good. That's what everyone wants to hear. It's about to have a seat. I'll bring mine down.
Spoon is the meaty portion of his hand. He's going to ID where he's going through.
Yourself, right? Somebody's got to prep another bang and actually get in the room.
And another thing I want to add is like recognizing room structure during CQB is very important. Like remember, when you look at the structure of the room, there's not really a whole lot to see. That is until you begin to like pretty much just think about the room and room structure in general. Like depending if it's a linear room and there's a lot of hard corners, you got to remember that certain room structures are always gonna have like different entry points and shit like that, and that's gonna make it harder like to clear. Like there's a corner fed room, which is obviously the doors of the corner center fed room where the entry point is in the center of the room, and then you have a box shaped room. So a box shaped room is usually a square shaped room with four corners, obviously because it's a box shaped room, and that's usually what you like encounter in tactical environments. And then there's a linear shaped room, which is like the span of a building or a hallway or a tunnel. So that's like a good I give you idea of a linear room, which is all long clear. And then there's an L-shaped room, which is like the shape of an L. So yeah, like there's different types of rooms, and considering that there's different types of room, you gotta always acknowledge that when clearing, you're not gonna have the same process you did going into a box-shaped room. You might not do going into an L-shaped room. So that's just shit you gotta pay attention to when it comes to room clearing. Like I said, they all know their fields of fire, so it makes everything. And moving quick and efficient. Speed kills. You gotta be fast. The faster you are while being efficient and proficient with what you're doing, the more deadly and lethal you are gonna be. That's why the more you practice this, the faster you can move, where you don't need to think about what you're doing, but you still understand everything in your surroundings and reacting fast and reacting right. And this is all live fire CQB, so very important. And right there, when they conducted that, they're both moving at a quick rate where if there is an enemy, when the point man hits that right corner and butt hooks to that right, if there is an enemy on that left corner, the second man is still going to be able to move quick enough where he will not be able to shoot the point man in time. The second man will be able to execute his kill and fucking kick doors and shoot faces. That's pretty much it. I remember once they cross that door, they're entering the threshold. Alright, so that's pretty much all I'm gonna show you for episode 1, because I don't want to get too much information and too much knowledge. So I don't want you to pretty much. Oh yeah, I actually had the MEK. This is what you've seen in the first video that they used to breach. So like I said, like if you're basic O3, you're pretty much not going to be doing breaching unless you're a combat engineer. But when it comes to Marine Raiders or Special Forces, they definitely do conduct like MARSOC. Even Recon, they have like anyone breaching, but everyone's knowledgeable on that. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say for today. I'm definitely going to make a part 2 to this, and it's going to be more advanced and just more in depth, but this is just pretty much the basics of CQB, so you understand what you're looking at and pretty much the mindset behind it. So if I didn't explain things amazing, that's just fucking because it's my first time explaining shit when it comes to a YouTube video and just having to break down videos. The shit is really self-explanatory to me, so like trying to, I wouldn't say dumb it down, but trying to explain it without being overcomplicated is kind of hard with my choice of words. But some things you could take away from this video before I just end it and cut you guys off is you want excellent muzzle discipline, trigger control, safety usage, and situational awareness is all very important. Live fire exercises that's using live ammunition is definitely going to be the key to executing CQB. There's different types of movements. As you can see, never cross your feet when you're doing CQB because that's going to keep you off balance, and you don't want to be off balance, especially when you're shooting a rifle. You want to lean into it forward. You never want to lean backwards. That's just something just in general when it comes to marksmanship. And direct determination, meaning that you want to know when to shoot and when not to shoot, when you need to take the shot, and knowing when not to take the shot could be life or death. And usually you gotta take that shot. Instinctive malfunction clearance. You gotta make sure you always understand and know everything about your weapon system, which I'll get in more depth in another video also. And when I say you know everything about it's like let's just say you get a stoppage, right? You know how to clear your rifle fast, because when it comes to CQB, like you don't have a lot of time to fucking switch shit around. You gotta make sure you're moving deadly, swift and deadly. And on top of that, obviously martial extra moving and shooting, whether it's with a pistol or a rifle, is important. Sometimes you run out of mag and you can't speed reload. You got to swap to that pistol and take the shot. That's important. Dynamic versus threshold, never cross street, like I said. This is just pretty much. You also got to know your sector of fire. Notice how all these videos that you've seen, the deployment knows his sector of fire, knows which where he's going, and the second man knows where he's going. Third, fourth man, they all know where to go and where to move, and they do it so smooth. That's the key. It's very easy. When you actually do it, it's very easy. Watching it, it might seem difficult, but it's not hard at all. And on top of that, you got to make sure you got to try to identify if it's a center fed room, a door fed room, linear shape room. All this stuff is very important. Corner fed room, it's located at the corner of the wall, and a center fed room is located in the center. Remember that. Um, Cover is just you're cover from fire, pretty much from enemy fire and indirect fire. That's cover. Concealment, you're not covered from fire. Concealment is you're just covered from enemy observation, but you aren't protected. Remember that. Dead space when clearing a room is a part of the room that you can't see. So if you can't see that part of the room, it's called dead space, pretty much. Like pretty simple. And then you want to master CQB footwork to the point where you don't even think about it. That's the goal. Put in them hours, and you'll definitely get to that point. And the goal also when you see them doing CQB is they're taking steps that they're still going to be on balance. You got to have control of your movement. And on top of that, make sure you're always, the method that I say when clearing rooms, or that I would do and that I do, is I snap my rifle behind my shoulder, the stock of the rifle, and then you snap it out when it comes to hitting that doorway. When you hit that threshold, before you even hit the threshold, when you hit that corner of the doorway, the edge of it, like that's when you do that. And like I said, add a few bonus things to this video is there's different types of room clearing, like I said. In CQB, speed matters. You want to get to clear the near corner, and also on top of that, the greatest threat in CQB is obviously the enemy, but it's also any uncleared areas. So you always want to be observant and move quick. The goal is speed while being observant. You don't want to just run and just be like just literally just run around the room. You want to make sure you're moving fast, but you know what you're looking at. And this video is already long enough, and this is just episode 1. So I'm gonna stop it right there, and I'm gonna make a part 2 and give you guys a lot more info, and I'm gonna talk about way more shit in part 2. But that was just the basics. All right, I'm out.